and welcome to the Social Angle, a podcast that helps promo pros gain an edge in the social media realm. I'm digital content director Vinnie Driscoll, and on this episode, I am joined by Samantha Fullerton of BAMKO to discuss how she was able to survive among some of Canada's worst forest fires in Alberta, the effect it's had on business, and much more. Samantha, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Sure, I appreciate you getting up at this early time. I know it's 10 a.m. Eastern. Is it 8 a.m. where you are?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Well, thank you. We've been kind of putting this podcast off for a few weeks. I tried to get you on, but that was at a really bad time. The forest fires were really raging at the time in Alberta, so we had to put it off for a few weeks, and then a few weeks turned in, I think, to almost 6 weeks now. But I'm happy to have you on for this conversation. I think this is an important one, and it's one that not only has affected um, Canada with the amount of fires that are going on up there, but also the smoke has come down and affected, the United States as well. And I'm in the Philadelphia area. We've had some really crazy days. I've never experienced where the Canadian forest fires have led to really high pollution so badly in the Philadelphia area that they were telling us to stay indoors, like don't go outside. It's a health warning. So really crazy how it's impacted not only Canada but down here in the United States. But before we get into the conversation, can you give us a little bit of a brief intro of who you are, who you work for, and how you found yourself in the promo industry?
You bet. I'm going to go back to the very beginning. So it was about 15 years ago, and it was a very happy accident. I was applying for jobs, and someone was hiring for an operations coordinator. I walked in, and I see this really fabulous showroom and all the merch. So they had a really amazing showroom that had the most creative products I'd ever seen in my life, and I still had no idea what this company did, but I just knew I wanted to be a part of it. So they ended up not hiring me for the operations coordinator position, but as a sales assistant, which was a much more appropriate fit. A couple of reps left the company, and there was an opening for an account rep. So after 1 year, they kicked my butt into sales, and here we are 15 years later. So it's just the wildest, most fun, creative place you can possibly be. And I'm on my fourth company with BAMKO right now. I have no plans to go anywhere. They are pretty fabulous.
That's awesome. And you said you've been in the industry for 15 years?
That's right.
Yeah, myself, I'm 15 years. I'm in my 16th year. It'll be 16 in December. But yeah, lots of longevity in this industry. I love to hear that. People get in this industry usually by mistakes, like you did, and they don't leave it. They love it. And I'm one of those people. So we're here to discuss the forest fires in Alberta. Where are you located exactly?
I'm in Sherwood Park, so I'm about 20 minutes east of Edmonton.
Okay, and where were the fires relative to where you live?
When they first started, there were fires to either side of our property. So we live on an acreage, and there were properties to the north and to the south of us. Thankfully, they were probably 15 miles to be the closest on either end. But the big, massive fires were in Edson and then in northern Alberta. So our northern Alberta communities are more Indigenous people. Our Edson community is only about 8,000 people, but the biggest highway for transportation of goods runs through Edson. And that was where we saw some of the biggest hurdles.
So are they still burning?
Not the ones near Edson. So Edson had evacuation orders, multiple evacuation orders over the last 6 weeks. They're finally all home. In northern Alberta, there are still fires burning, and we do still have air pollution index because of the smoke coming down from up north.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you ever evacuated?
No, I had the truck packed. When we had the two fires on either side of us, we didn't know which one the fire department would prioritize and what our risk level was. So we were ready to go at a moment's notice, but thankfully we didn't have to.
So have you guys gotten a lot of rain? Like what was the impetus for putting out some of the fires near Edson?
So at the beginning, they had just all hands on deck. They had over 200 firefighters tackling the Edson fire because it's such a main thoroughfare. And residents got to go home. And then 2 weeks later, the fires started back up again. The hot spots all flared back up. We had really big winds, and it was just very hot and dry. So they were evacuated again. And then we had 1 week solid of nothing but pouring rain in mid-June. And that ended up actually flooding a lot of the communities that had just been evacuated from fire in Edson.
Wow.
They had to be re-evacuated because of flooding.
No kidding. Wow. So
Mm.
you had like, double whammy there with dry, fire, fires from the I guess the dryness. Was it do they know what it was? Was it lightning strikes? Was it arson? Like, what do they know what caused these fires?
Um, they don't know for sure. They haven't said for sure. So they say about 40% of the time it is from lightning strikes from storms. We hadn't had a lot of storms yet. To be honest, we're in Alberta. So we had snow up until just before May long weekend.
Okay.
And that snow was evaporating into the ground, and our trees didn't even have the buds on them yet. And the buds and the greenery is what slows down the path of a fire. We didn't have any of that. Everything was
Hmm.
tinder dry. The snow had just evaporated, and the conditions were just prime for hot, dry wind, lightning, and oftentimes it'll actually be a spark from something like an ATV or a train passing through too.
Right, right.
Mhm,
Yeah, it could be anything. I mean, when you have that type of Tinder environment, anything can spark it. It doesn't
mhm,
necessarily have to be a lightning strike. I mean, there are so many things that can create that spark.
mhm.
So, what was it like to live under that threat of evacuation? What was your personal life and your professional life like?
Personal life, a lot of guilt. Like it's not survivor's guilt, but like I feel guilty that the community is not very far from us and people that we care about are being evacuated constantly. They have nothing but chaos. There's no assurance from anyone that you're going to get to go home anytime soon. And a lot of the people out there are farmers and landowners, and you're seeing like decades and decades of potential devastation to their livelihoods. Professionally, it was put everything on hold. It was who can we communicate to get the resources to the people who are most affected. And that meant I had one client who works a lot with the northern communities, and she needed power banks. So it was which supplier can ship power banks by air because anyone in our industry knows you can't. So there's one supplier who has one courier who could deliver them by air. So we were able to get power to the client to get them into the most northern communities affected by fire. But transportation of goods through Edson was terrible. We didn't necessarily miss any event dates, but we did come very close because those they had to be rerouted. Everything had to be
Right.
rerouted. Yeah.
Right. And to focus on work at a time like this is probably very challenging because you're concerned not only for your well-being but for the well-being of others. Like you said, you feel guilt. But yeah, it must have been something. I've never experienced anything like that. Like I said earlier, the most I've experienced from a forest fire is what I experienced last month when the smoke came down from Canada and created like this orange haze all over the east coast, which was really strange to me. It felt like we were living on Mars, because everything was smoggy and orange and was really
Mhm.
weird. But that was the extent. I've never experienced anything like that. My sister lives out in Oregon, and she experiences this stuff frequently because of the California fires that the wind blows up north, and she
Mhm.
experiences it, and she's told me what it's like. But it's pretty crazy that Canada's got these fires raging, not only in Alberta but in Quebec, and the smoke is
Mhm.
coming down this way. um so did were you able to you mentioned the power banks, were you able to sort of get back into the groove of things once things died down with work? Like, how badly has this impacted your professional life, your work?
Thankfully, not too much. For me, it's always who can I help and how can I help them. So it was reaching out to the evacuation center that was set up in Edmonton for the residents of Edson, and saying, "What can we donate? Can I contact suppliers for you? Can I have them drop ship? What do you need? Just tell me, and we'll get it dropped off here." It's been okay. Like getting back into work has been fine. It's always just waiting for that call and the doom scrolling. So I doom scroll the Alberta emergency alert system all the time
You're
now.
right.
Okay, so
Right.
where's it coming from next? And then we had a tornado in southern Alberta that was
Really?
our second worst tornado on record.
That's crazy. Wow, you
Yeah,
guys have experienced some insane weather in 2023.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, my heart goes out to you guys. Like I said earlier, like I've never the East Coast, we don't experience this kind of stuff. Although we had a tornado, I think last year or 2 years ago, which I've never. experience, but we had to go in the basement. But to experience these three things in 1 year is pretty insane. Uh, so, how do you focus? How do you motivate yourself to focus on work at times like this?
Sometimes you just don't. Sometimes you just let yourself live in the chaos, and it's okay. Work will be there when you can focus. Um, I found that if I was trying to drag myself and force myself to do my work, it wasn't focused work. I would have to go back and reread everything I had written, anyways.
Yeah,
So get it out of your system. Focus when you can, and whatever those fears you have are, work through them. Whether it's reaching out to people to make sure that they're okay. And that was the other thing. I had some friends who were being evacuated, and I was like, I don't want to bug them. I won't, like, they'll
right.
contact me when they can. And then as soon as I did, they're like, oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you. Yes, we're okay. We're on the run, basically. So it's more so making sure they're okay.
What about how much did COVID prepare you for something like this? Was COVID like I think we all sort of experienced this sort of craziness during COVID, and we all did, everyone didn't know what's tomorrow going to bring. So, did COVID help prepare you for this? Is this completely something different?
Absolutely it did. I'm not going to say it dulled the senses, but it really did make you take chaos and like, okay, let's sit down, let's evaluate the real facts here and what is our actual threat risk,
Right,
and how can we help? Yes, I found that I'm much more calm in scarier
right,
situations.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think for me as well, and most people in 2020 when COVID hit and nobody knew what was going to happen in a week, a month. And I think I, even though I haven't experienced what you experienced this year, I think I would be better prepared because of the experiences with COVID. But that's interesting to hear that you're a little bit more grounded. You're a little bit more prepared for these events like forest fires, tornadoes, floods. Thanks, I don't want to thanks to COVID. COVID was awful, and I don't want to ever look at it and say, oh, I want to thank COVID. But to me, I feel like it's put us in a situation where if we were able to handle a global pandemic, I think it's going to prepare us for other things. A little bit better than maybe we would have handled them pre-pandemic.
I
So
agree.
you talked a little bit about the traveling in that area. I know what it's like. When fires rage like that. I've seen the videos, and it sort of shuts down highways. It shuts down airports. What was it like? In terms of the movement of goods in Alberta and the impact that it's had on the promo industry in Canada.
So that highway is the connection from the west to Alberta and the rest of the eastern Canada, really. And it meant delays. It meant truckers having to use roads that were not meant to bear that type of weight and load
Right.
regularly. So I'm sure they just destroyed those roads too. And that community, the Edson community, and all of those communities along that highway, they lost out on that business that they would have had from travel for weeks and weeks and weeks. It was peak, like we're getting into peak tourism season. We have snow for 6 to 8 months of the year. So we're
Right.
counting on those days when that snow goes away. We're hitting the highway to go to BC, and you couldn't do that.
Right.
So it brought everything to an absolute standstill. And you're asking people who waited all winter to take a vacation to now wait and wait and wait these fires out.
Right.
Um, so the promo industry, thankfully, like events hadn't started getting going really. Golf tournaments, I know a few golf tournaments actually did have to get canceled because of the smoke. It was so bad. So that would be a big impact. People sitting on merch that they can't get rid
Sure.
of, can't hand out now. Um, but we don't have a lot of warehousing in Edmonton necessarily, so that was okay. It was just those couple of events that were waiting on goods.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
But are things back to uh, the way they were earlier, or is there still some issues with the arteries and getting, product moved around?
We're back to normal. The only thing now is hoping that flooding is subsided because we had another few days of big rain over the weekend.
Okay.
Um, so as long as that holds, we should be okay. Yeah.
Now I got to ask you: is this normal for Canada?
No, no, it's not. So we typically do have some wildfires in the summer in Alberta, but the season was hot and fast and very early, and the area that burned It was, I think, I want to say it was one of the largest in Canada's
Okay.
history for how fast it burned. And then in northern Quebec, that is not normal. No, that is absolutely not typical
Sure.
at all. It's because we're such a large country and we have so much less population than the United States. They're not manned areas. And so they have to let it burn. They have to play triage and treat the areas that are a threat to the economy and to the people first.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So what is you mentioned that it's raining and it's you have the floods now. What is the prognosis going forward for the fires? Are they does it look like they're going to be put out from the rain, or does it look like it's going to get dry again?
I'm not very hopeful. So it's supposed to get very hot and it's supposed to be very hot all summer. So I feel like we're in for a bad summer, but that's just me personally. Yeah, I don't think we're prepared. Thankfully, we had all the rain, so there's some good groundwater. Even on our farm, we filled up all our rain barrels, so we're prepared for a bit of a drought. But that only gets you through a couple of weeks.
Do you normally get a lot of rain in the summer or no?
Not a ton. So some summers you'll get a really good douse of rain, and then I mean, we had one summer we call it summer of 17. It was 17 degrees and it rained every single day. But then you have summers last year where everyone had to get air conditioning installed because it was 30 degrees for so
Wow.
many days.
Okay. So there's a lot of ups and
Mhm.
downs with, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy. So last question. This has nothing to do with the forest fires. So when you're not dodging natural disasters, which seems like 2023, natural disasters seem to be the trademark of the year. How are you using social media to grow your business?
So social media for me, it never really started being about business. It was Facebook. I'm a really late adopter. I was like, it was 7 years before I gave Instagram a try. And I did the whole like personal account, business account. And I finally said, no, you know what? If the people like me, I'm one package, I'm one person. So I found that finally being just me and having one singular voice was what started getting people to pay attention. Instagram's just a fun way to connect and share my life. And sometimes you get engagement, sometimes you don't. But LinkedIn, I see the biggest value in LinkedIn, really.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, sharing content that's meaningful and adding a little bit of an opinion, asking for other people's opinions. I feel like it's far more engaging. And people really do go back and like read through your old posts too.
Hmm.
And rather than cold calling, I use that a lot for prospecting. So
Sure.
LinkedIn, like this is who I am. I want to have as much content on there to give you an idea of who I am as a human being. So you want to work with me. And
Right.
that's actually been way better for me. Organically, I'll have people like, hey, I've been following you for 2 or 3 years now. We need some merch. Do you want to talk? I'm like, absolutely.
That's awesome. I'm a big proponent of doing exactly what you're doing is really humanizing yourself on the social networks. Talking a little bit about what you do and the value you provide, and not really hard selling, but just kind of showing yourself, your personal side, your business side. People will take notice and they'll remember you, and when the time is right, you know potentially they'll reach out to you, or vice versa. You reach out to them. They already know who you are because maybe they know what you do on the social networks. Maybe they see you in groups. But I really do think that social media, when you use it the way you're using it, I think it's the right way. You humanize yourself. Your Instagram is, you showcase who you are personally. You showcase who you are professionally. LinkedIn as well. Uh, that that creates the opportunity for networking, to build relationships, and I think that's the right way to do it. So you said LinkedIn is the one that you see the most value in.
100%. I really hope that we don't go through this whole Twitter threads thing and they have to create another LinkedIn because no, I have
Yeah,
invested hours and
I
hours
know.
into
I
LinkedIn.
was just talking about Threads because yesterday was the big release of it, and I think there was 10 million downloads, and it was like, okay, this is a threat to Twitter. We're going to see. Is there another social network that we have to jump on
No
here?
more.
But yeah, I know we're at like capacity. I'm like, no more. Um, but Samantha, thank you for taking the time today to speak to me. If anyone wants to get hold of you, how can they do so?
I'm on Instagram, self promo Sam. So if anyone knows me, I'm a self promo junkie. So self promo Sam on Instagram and Samantha Fullerton on LinkedIn, and Fullerton at BAMKO.net if you want to send me an email and connect.
Awesome. Thank you again for your time today, Sam.
Thank you.
and stay safe out there in Alberta. You never know what's around the corner.
Yeah, pray for us.
All right, take care.
Thank you.